carnival. Everybody was involved to some degree, picking up members, people used to kind of vote. They had to be they were almost accosted in front of the kind of ballot kind of place, people being forced, people trying to almost tell you, you're from our village, don't be a disgrace. That was one kind of tactic, right? All sorts of collecting you, even though the other faction has recruited you. Another faction would collect you from home and take you to the ballot paper, hoping that you'd vote for them. So there was all these kind of things happening.
I think, considering the amount of people that voted, they were well organised. I think the passion with which Indians share their feelings were very much part of it. There were fights, there was shouting, but the elections themselves, I think they were well organised. There were queues of people waiting to vote.
Always did horse trading. If you give me 5 seats, I give you another one. You gave us 10 seats. You have 11. This, that. You give me the general secretaryship. I give you 5 more this side and all that.
It was under Vishnu Dutt Sharma and Rupra. They bought Dominion, and that was bought, one, that it would seen as an independent organization with their own assets, so that people living in Southall could feel that this is ours.
ਅਸੀਂ ਡੋਮੀਨੀਅਨ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ ਉਦੋਂ 90,000 ਪਾਉਂਡ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਡੋਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਹੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਸੀ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਲਈ ਕਲਚਰ ਤੇ ਸਮਾਜਿਕ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਉਹ ਡੋਮੀਨੀਅਨ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਲੈਣ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡਾ ਉਹ ਮਕਸਦ ਵੀ ਪੂਰਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇਸ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਮੋਸਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਮੀਨੈਂਟ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਇੰਦਰਾ ਗਾਂਧੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਤੋਂ ਬੋਲ ਕੇ ਗਈ ਆ
When Dominion Cinema was bought, people got a lot of money voluntarily as well. About 50% deposit was raised by the community themselves, some on loan from members and some donations. In those days, the average wage was about 12 pounds, 13 pounds, and many people donated 100 pounds each.
We used to run Indian movies. That was something which provided them entertainment. And secondly, a place to meet with each other.
I remember going there with my friend. This auditorium, 1,800 seats, totally packed. And seeing a film, and me and my friend, we were very young, we sat on one seat. And I kind of remember, going to see films like Jungly and everybody singing in the cinema.
The cinema wasn't just a building, it brought the entire community together. Independence Day celebrations, Bhangra competitions. It was the heartbeat of our community.
It had a boxing ring, but the Indian Workers Association used to use that to hold wrestling competitions. And I remember vividly, Dara Singh, our national hero, came to kind of Dominion Center. Oh my God. Everybody, it was packed.
I think the big thing for people were the Indian film stars that came. Very much part of that was Sagun Thakur's next door, so you'd pick up your samosas or go to the cinema or you'd go there afterwards, and great joy. That building had great joy in it.
It was giving good income. Out of that income, we were very able to run the offices.
Yes, when Indira Gandhi came in 1976, I want to actually, it's a funny thing as also. Vishnu Dutt Sharma he announced, it was leaflet, that Indira Gandhi will come at 7:15 p.m. I may be wrong on the time, 7:50 p.m. and she will sit until 7:30 p.m. She will get up to speak at 7:45 p.m. and she will finish her speech about 8 o'clock. Please come at 7 o'clock or before sharp. And the people, as our habits are, Indian Standard Time, they were coming at 8:30, 9 o'clock. See, where Indira Gandhi has gone. And they were all blaming Vishnunath Sharma. Why did he start the program at the exact time?
ਮੁੜਦੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਛੀ ਵੇਖਾਂ ਹੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਜਿਹੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ
With kind of immigration, IWA activists were the only people who would go to Heathrow Airport, talk to entry clearance officers, immigration officers, to try to get people who were detained at the airport and not given permission to come into the country.
So the immigration authorities started harassing people if they were coming, if their dependents were coming and all that. So that was the service we provided to liaise, to go to the airport and then interview the applicants and tell the immigration officers that means the genuineness of the relationships and all that. I had to work even up to 12 o'clock in the night because the immigration officers were in the habit of keeping us waiting so that next time we don't dare to go there. But that was there. It didn't deter us.
I think Vishnu was the person who came to JCWI and told the organisation that he had encountered someone who had been subjected to a virginity test by the immigration authorities at Heathrow.
Virginity test was one of those factors, just to create problems. Oh, you are not a virgin, therefore how come you are getting to get married? As if this is a qualification for getting married.
At that stage, female fiancés were the only family members who didn't have to get entry clearance in advance. So looking back at the sort of suspicious way that immigration officers looked at families, particularly from the Indian subcontinent and the Caribbean, they said, well, we don't believe that this woman can possibly be a fiancée. We don't think she is. We think she's really a wife trying to get round the entry clearance requirements. Therefore, we subject her to a medical examination, which, of course, cannot actually prove whether someone is a virgin or not.
It is not in the rules or law that a virginity test has to be done, but it was carried on. There was some instruction from the Home Office to the immigration people.
That was again Indian Workers Association, JCWI coming together. It was the practice at the Heathrow Airport by the immigration officers. It was challenged in the parliament and then it was removed.
IWA has a lot to be proud of in terms of campaigning for justice for people who've been affected by Britain's immigration system, because of course that incident led to a major inquiry into racism in the immigration service.
The parents of white children, they felt very restless and threatened with the growing number of Asian children in the schools. And Education Minister came to Southall and he asked about the opinions of the parents. Naturally, Asian parents, they never spoke up, but the English parents, they said, oh, we don't want these children in our schools at all. So the Education Minister said, I can't open separate schools for these children, but if you say so, I will send black child in every school where there's no black child. They didn't want to increase the number more than 33% in a school. So then the education authorities decided, let's bus the children outside Southall, but only Asian children were bused, nobody else.
They were being bussed out to the borders, Norfolk, Greenford, areas that we wouldn't even go to. But they were putting them, like herding them onto coaches, taking them, bussing them there, and then picking them up and bringing them back.
I used to drive the Foxapage coach to take the kid to the school up to Acton. I always against. So many times we find out a kid asleep on the back seat. I always say that is wrong. Every kid lost 1 or 2 hours sleep every morning.
Dispersal became more serious by 1969-70, and that was the time that IWA and even that time I was working with the Ealing Community Relations Council. We put our foot down that we don't need any dispersal. We need local schools, local places, and local schools.
Even my children also went in buses, and we fight against it through the IWA. We make a lot of demonstration, and IWA fight for it, and they won it, and then they started giving school in Southall after.
So I have very close association with Sardul Gill, and remembering those days, the popularity he had, the people, Indian people particularly, felt so proud that one of their own has got elected to Ealing Council, and he was very popular within the Labour Party and within the community. It was a big achievement.
Pyara Singh Khabda was the first elected Asian Labour Party MP. Both presidents of the Indian Workers Association, both rooted in the community.
And there were a lot of street fights with the National Front. And when they announced that they were coming to Southall, because it was the elections in May '79, they were standing in the elections and they wanted to have a public meeting in Southall Town Hall, an area where they had no support. Quite clearly as a publicity stunt and as a racist provocation.
We were not saying that they cannot hold a meeting. The Indian Workers Association was not saying that they cannot, they should not stand as a candidate. Let them stand, let them say whatever they want to say. But the Indian Workers Association was concerned that council should not allow them to hold meeting where there is a majority of Indian people are there.
There was a march to Ealing Town Hall asking the council not to give them Southall Town Hall, which was ignored, and eventually it was decided to have a huge demonstration.
We just wanted to make a demonstration peacefully against the racist body as our protest, because if they had right to hold a meeting, we have also right to hold a demonstration against such a fascist body.
Yes, I think there was such a build-up, and I can remember the day itself where all the businesses were boarding up the fronts of the shops. Women, children, men, older people, everybody was on the streets. I mean, Southall came to a standstill. You could not get onto the Broadway. There were women sitting on the floor, there were kids. I've never seen so many people. It felt like the authorities were working against us. Absolute disbelief. And I remember the footage on the news of them coming into the town hall and waving, you know, like, we're here and we did it and you couldn't stop this. Absolutely, I remember that day. And then the horses later on, and the confusion, and people being hurt. And then all night, my father at the police station trying to get people out that had been arrested and negotiating. And I remember him coming home in the morning absolutely shattered.
The Southall Youth Movement was created, but it's unfortunate that we did not let the youth leadership to emerge as a leading force, working in partnership with the Indian Workers Association and the senior leadership at that time, where it was seen as a threat.
The Indian Workers Association was unable to relate at that moment in time to the response of effectively their own children. So the IWA had a major shock, major awakening. It began to understand that it was no longer representative of the whole community. It could no longer speak like it had done for perhaps 3 decades for the whole community. Their historical role had been to mediate. We felt that they were almost appeasing the state institutions, the police, the race relations industry, the Home Office, etc., local authorities included. So as an institution, the Indian Workers Association had no conduits, no bridges in terms of coming to that community of second generation of new Asians, many of who call themselves British, whatever.
I do remember the sale. I remember how sad it was that although it had been the main focus of the community and so many wonderful things had happened with the videos coming in, people no longer watched films, and so the building was becoming dilapidated and the cinema wasn't being used, although part of it was still being used as the IWA office. There was an agreement that came to about the cinema that the IWA would still have a part of it at a peppercorn rent, but forever. So considering the state that the building was in, I think that was a really good deal, and to this day the IWA is still based there.
One beauty of the Indian Workers Association Southall is that people from the different faiths, different regions and different political persuasions came together, never fought on the grounds of their political lines. Congress and the Communists worked together with their own understanding how they want to see the Indian Workers Association developed. I mean, Indian Workers Association has a very major role for the development of the Indian community in this area. But it's also encouraged many people to participate in other walks of life. People were supported and people were brought together and the unity was created.
More Indian community became more settled, more economically independent, more able to take care of individually even of their own situation under the rule of law. The IWA started becoming, going downhill. And although I'm not saying that we don't need IWA, we still need it. But at the same time, it depends on the people who are actively involved in Indian Workers Association to see that it starts relating to changing conditions.
Some conversations with people say, oh, well, IWA doesn't do anything. Hundreds of people go through that door still to this day seeking advice and support. Because a lot of us have moved on socially or economically, there's still a huge number of people who are living in appalling conditions, being treated very badly at work, are here illegally, many other reasons. So the organisation still has a place.
मजदूर सभा ने एक अहम रोल प्ले किया इस मुल्क के चालियां जथेबंदी दे विच उस वेले दुनिया दे विच कोई ऐसा इंस्टीट्यूशन नहीं सी सारी दुनिया दे विच जिहड़ा सैकुलर होवे ਸਾਰੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਹੋਣਗੇ, ਸਕੂਲ ਵੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ, ਪਰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਸੈਕੂਲਰ ਅਦਾਰਾ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਤਖਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ।
ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਇਸ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਮੋਢੇ ਤੇ ਚਿਪਸ ਔਨ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੋਲਡਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੋਰੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਾਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨੇ ਹੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਾਲੇ ਆ ਕਰ ਦੇਣਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਸੂਏਸ਼ਨ ਸਾਡਾ ਬੁਨਿਆਦੀ ਵਿੰਡੋ ਸਾਡਾ